Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Checklist. This is episode number 4, where your list is my command. Alright, so I got 2 lists for you this week, and I am honestly diving into some very unfamiliar territory. I have never done a Legion list or a Mercenaries list before, so we're going to take a whack at 2 of these. Alright, first we have a request from Reddit, Massimo Rosso, and he wanted a standard 75-point list, something somewhat competitive. Now, I have no familiarity with Legion in terms of competitive, what's run, what's taken, this and that. I relied heavily on Warmachine University for this one, but I came up with what to me seemed like a very interesting mix that's not typical. And I normally hear about other casters and other units used, so this is what I came up with for you. We have 75 points in the Children of the Dragon theme, led by Rhyas 1. Rhyas, Sigil of Everblight, basically a standalone assassin caster with a couple of buffs for her army. In her battle group, she's taking Angelius and Zuriel, which is her buddy war beast, and a succubus. And the rest of the army, basically everything starts with blightedness, except for 1 unit. So you have more elves than you can check a stick at, quite honestly, and you have an army of Psycho Legolas running around, alright? So, you have a Blightedness Sorceress and Hellion, Blightedness Warlord, the Black Frost Shard. I don't know what to think of these guys really beyond the fact that they are a very versatile toolbox. Blightedness Archers, max unit with the Officer and the Porter, very important. Blightedness Hex Hunters, max unit. Blightedness Raptors, max unit. Blightedness Swordsman, max unit with the Swordsman Habit and Champion. So, that rounds you out at 75 points with requisitions taken. Your freebies are the officers for the swordsmen and the archers, and the blightedness warlord. Now, let's break this down. So, the theme, Children of the Dragon, you're getting on any Nephilim beast. In this case, only Zuriel gets unyielding, which is +2 armor to melee damage. The Warlock gets Tactician Blightedness, which means they can ignore models in line of sight. They can move through them as long as they can pass them. This is going to be very handy for screening and then setting up an assassination run. This is an assassination list. Your caster your Warlock might not be the one to do it, but you're going to have so many friggin' elves that it's not even funny. Psycho Keebler Elves from Hell is what you ought to just call the list. Anyway. Alright, so Rhyas, as I said, is a straight-up assassin. Her feet tied of blood. Rhyas and her friendly models in control get 1 extra melee attack in combat. The first time a friendly faction model damages an enemy with a basic melee attack, you can go anywhere and base to base with the model. So if you have anything that takes advantage of free strikes, back arcs, anything like that, you're able to set up quite a thing if you don't kill the model right outright. She also has parries and no free strikes. Pathfinder, move through terrain. Acrobatics, she can go through models as if they're if she can move completely past them, ignores intervening on the charge, so you are very easily able to set her up for assassination runs. Riposte, when she's missed in a melee attack, she can make 1 basic attack on the model that missed. Again, you're inviting a caster to try to kill her, miss, and get a free shot. Sprint, end of activation, when it destroys or removes a model or more in melee, it can make a full advance. So again, if you let's say you have a squad in the way or a unit of troops in the way of the enemy caster, if you kill at least one of those models, she can make a full advance and set up for a run. Her weapon has some interesting abilities here, and I don't know how useful one of them is going to be, but it's a magical weapon. She's Weapon Master. Critical Decapitation, which means double damage exceeding the armor on a critical hit. No tough rolls. Spirit Eater. Model can reave fury from enemy war beasts it kills. So if you whittle something down with shooting and get her up to do the killing blow with it, you can pull fury off that and potentially get a few more spells out of the deal. Getting into her spells, she's really got a simple list here. She's got Dash, Occultation, and Rapport. Dash, Spellcaster, and friendly models in control range get +1 speed, and friendly models get parry. Kind of nice. Occultation, target model unit gets stealth. Rapport, it's a double whammy. 1, the target war beast in the battle group can use the caster's melee attack and ranged attack values, which will buff up Angelius quite a bit, and double the control range for the beast. So, let's say your you want to fly Angelius out quite a bit. If you cast this first, potentially, then you can take advantage of things further out at greater range. Very straightforward. You're buffing your beast with rapport. The units with dash will get in faster, and occultation will protect or screen people. Your Nis are pretty good. Some of them have tough, some of them have different buffs thrown in, but if you want to hide something or protect a key unit, that's how you do it. Probably good for turn 1 if you're running or advancing a unit. It's good to keep them a little more protected. Alright, so getting into your army. Angelius, this thing just flies around and smacks people. Can't slam or trample, can't be knocked down. It has sidestep, which is kind of handy for manipulation and combat. It's got a fire attack, causes crit continuous fire, and it's got tail strike, which is, you only get one of these, but it's an armor-piercing melee attack. It cuts the base armor stat of the hit model in half, and you can only make one attack with that weapon. So this would be something you want to use rapport on, particularly if you're going up against heavy armor. Angelius is your nutcracker for that. It's a quick alpha strike model, really. You have to be a little careful of its fragility, but again, there's some other good stuff in the list that will help that do its job. The animus it has is repulsion. It's a push spell for 3 inches. So if you really need to get something out of the way or move it out of an attack range or set up an assassin run by moving something further away from your warlock, that's a good way to do it. Zuriel. Zuriel is Rhyas' bestest buddy. Obviously, as a Nephilim, he's got eyeless sight. He also has flight. He's bonded to Rhyas, so he gets stealth in her control range. You can double that with rapport, by the way. Dual attacks. He can do melee and shooting in the same turn, which is good because he does have a fire spray attack, and he's got his 2 warblades. He's got kill shot. Once per activation, when the enemy is destroyed or removed from play, it can make a basic ranged attack. So if you kill something close up, he can then shoot. This is a good way if you engage a unit to take out more than one model. Precision strike. If he's going against beasts or jacks, you get to pick the column. Nice. His animus is elusive. Caster gains dodge. Can advance up to 2 inches after an enemy attack misses it unless it's advancing. Dash with dodge thrown on. I could see that being pretty tricky to get Rhyas run up the field very quickly if you're lucky. And she's also taking a succubus. This is a magic booster, basically. Arcane Assist gives her free upkeep spell with no fury spent, which is good. And it's got some offensive spells as well. You're going to see that throughout. The Black Frost Shard, the Hex Hunters, these guys are all just slinging magic most of the way. I thought it was a nice twist because you don't just have straightforward conventional military elves. You have a lot of magic being thrown around the board. Not particularly the strength of this theme, but still fun to play with. Anyway. Getting into the units then. Bladedness, Sorceress, and Hellion. This is a buff solo with a flying mount, so you can get her in somewhere if you need to do a quick hit-and-run attack. She's got some offensive spells with some cold. Blightstorm is an offensive area of effect attack. Frostbite is a cold attack. Wind Ravager is interesting if you want to shut down enemy shooting. Models in the command range can't make ranged attacks for 1 round. You can't use rapport on this particularly because this model isn't in your battle group, but still, if you have a gun line setting up across from you, that's a good one to keep your guys more alive or deny them shooting for a turn. The other plus here is aerial coordination. So you have 2 war beasts that can fly. In this command range, they can charge without being forced, which is nice if you're trying to conserve on fury and you're trying not to burn out your beasts. So it gives you an option there. Blightedness Warlord. This guy buffs your swordsmen. They get precision strike in command range. Otherwise, they have other nasty abilities. He's a good combat solo. You kind of take him for the ability. You also take him for a slice and dice. Black Frost Shard. This is, I just call them the nasty magic bros. They can make magical attacks after they kill in melee. Ice Bolt and Ice Cage. They can render targets stationary that don't have immunity to cold. Ice Cage knocks down the defense, and if it's hit by all 3, if all 3 brothers use that, it can be stationary 1 round. Kind of handy if you want to smack things. Other than that, they have these unique spells, each to their 1 for each brother. Severin has Unbinding. Enemy upkeeps within 5 inches expire. Models take D3 damage for each spell they actually controlled. So if you have a caster that's buffing one unit like crazy and he casts this, A, it removes all the buffs, B, it damages the caster. Nifty. That's a really good way to set up Rhyas for assassination, by the way. If you in your meta have someone playing that's very magic heavy, especially if they're playing something like Menoth, where they have a lot of buffs, this is a good way to make that a drawback. Rhyas does the Kiss of Lilith. Where do they name these fucking elves? Friendly models making a damage roll against enemy hit by Kiss add +2 to the roll. Easier to hit, in other words. And Visar has Cloak of Mist. The unit gets stealth. So if you want to run these guys up or get them close to take advantage of other spells, that's a good way to do it. Alright, Blightedness Archers. Psycho Legolas on crack. They're basic fragile shooty archers, but with the command attachment, they all get rate of fire 2. So they absolutely do become Psycho Legolas. And they can do combined arms attacks with the officer. So if you're trying to take out something heavier like a jack or tougher infantry, that's a good way to do it. Alright, Blightedness Axe Hunters, max unit. These are magic boys that can also fight in close combat. They have Stealth, Pathfinder, Apparition, which means they can be placed 2 inches anywhere from their current spot. They make magic attacks. They have magic melee weapons. Their bread and butter is Hexbolt. It's got a 6-inch range, but those models can't make special attacks or power attacks for a round. So you could use this to take out an infantry unit with an officer and some mini feats or some powerful skills. It's kind of a waste on jacks unless there's several of them. If you're playing against like a jack heavy list, Forges of War, Jaws of the Wolf or Kador, probably a good idea to take some of these guys. It's a good way to rob them of anything special. You'll basically just have a basic beat stick or a basic shooty jack with abilities they can't use. I think that's kind of handy, honestly. Max unit of Blightedness Raptors. These guys are the they're riding around on elk. They're shooty cavalry. They have poison attacks, which does a little more damage. Very fragile, very hit and run, but again, use them precisely. Take out solos, take out attachments, take out journeyman casters, anything like that they're probably good for. They can just zip up a side and get her done. I wouldn't go much against jacks or beasts with these guys, though. I don't think they're very well proven. They're a little too fragile to survive it. Watch out for area of effect hits, because you'll lose models pretty quickly with them. And then you have your Blightedness Swordsman, max unit. They have prayers, which makes them very versatile. You can use them for a lot of different things. You can give them Relentless Charge, which is basically Pathfinder on the charge, magical weapons, or Cleave, which is nice if you plan on taking people out and taking advantage of moving around that. The champion can do a few other things. He's a duelist. Everybody gets Weapon Master with these guys, so extra damage dice. Very highly skilled melee unit here. If you have to run them up in waves, which you might want to do, probably do the Hex Hunters first so they can use their spells, and then charge these guys in as a second line, just because they will do more damage, take out whole units. The Hex Hunters and the Raptors are probably your good choices to hold objectives or take objectives, but the Swordsmen, I would keep them straight up combat. Okay, they're going to be the best at it. Again, the idea here is assassinate using Rhyas. You have more elves than you can chick a stick at, so this is going to be a big army. It's probably going to be pricey. I figure if you're playing 75 points, you know that. But again, the idea is take out the caster, do it with anything you have. Infantry-wise, I could see this overwhelming some other armies. They may have jacks, but they're not going to be able to really just take out all of your infantry in one shot. You're also going to tie up and walk through a lot of infantry with the right use of spells. So I think it's not your straightforward Children of the Dragon list, but I think with clever use of the two beasts, taking advantage of your speed advantages between dash and aerial coordination from the Hellion, that's going to be a good idea. So I hope it works well for you. Let me know on the feedback. Any Legion players, please give me some advice on this. Again, it is a faction I'm not very familiar with, but I'd be happy to learn more. So, Massimo, I hope you like the list. Next list is a Mercenaries list, the first one I've ever done, actually, and this comes from Vladimir on YouTube, and he gave me a 25-point brawl list using General Ossrum. So this is a Rulic or Dwarvish list. I'm not going to make any Gimli jokes here. He had a couple questions about it too, so first I'll go through his list and then I'll go over what does what. He is taking General Ossrum. He's taking a Gordson Basher, a Gordson Driller, a Grunback Blaster, a Grunback Gunner, an Ogren Boker, the Steelhead Gunner, the Horgenhold Artillery Corps, and the Horgenhold Forge Guard. And that's, again, in theme, so his requisition option here is the Horgenhold Artillery Corps. Alright, so the Hammer Strike theme, basically it's everything Dwarvish again. This is the first time I really took a look at Mercenaries, and it actually surprised me how well the themes break down. It really does create these really flavorful, fluffy kind of armies. I hadn't really considered that before, so honestly, if I'm getting into something story-wise, I'm probably going to play these guys. But anyway, Hammer Strike, everything Dwarvish. Heavy Jacks and Weapon Crew units get repositioned 3 inches. Warrior models get tough, and you get an extra 2-inch deployment range forward at the start of a game. Now, these guys, as you would guess, they're dwarves. Natural sprinters, very dangerous over short distances, but they don't move very fast, so that's going to be something you want to take advantage of. General Ossrum himself, he's your sort of middle round caster. He's toolbox, he does a lot of different things. His feat, perfect plan. Models in the control range get +3 armor, speed, and pathfinder for 1 round, so it makes them tougher, faster, and able to move through terrain. He has tactician, so models in his command range ignore friendly models for line of sight and can move through them. That's a good for a bait and switch. You don't really have much in the way of units. This is actually kind of jack heavy. A little bit of shooting, a little bit jack heavy. You got 1 unit, and you had questions on this, so I'll get into that last. His weapons are not amazing. He's just got a basic hand cannon, and he uses Oathkeeper. It's a melee weapon. Critical decapitation, so double damage when you exceed armor with a critical hit. That's going to be good. I wouldn't rely on him too much, though. I don't think he's going to just wade through things. I don't think he's tough enough, and you really don't have a lot to screen him with in this list. It's kind of weird. Spells. Bullet Dodger. Friendly model gets +2 defense and dodge. Energizer. Every model in the battle group in control range can advance up to 2 inches. Snipe. Target model or unit ranged weapons get +4 to range. You have quite a few things that shoot here, so you're going to want to use this to your advantage with probably the artillery crew, I would think, and then the... which is it? The gunner. That's a direct shot, so you're going to want more range on that one to hit something earlier. Stranglehold. I'm going to call this guy Nuge from now on. Offensive spell, model damage forfeits movement or combat at the controller's choice. And Unstoppable Force. His battle group models in control range get bulldoze, so models in base to base can push a model 2 inches away. Now, he also gets tough in the theme. Again, he's buffing both melee and shooting pretty easily. Not too much to it. He's using his feet to get models through terrain faster, make them a little bit tougher, and make them get into combat. You're going to want to take advantage of that. You're not dealing with a lot of troops, honestly. You really have 1 unit that can advance and take something, and that's really what I see your Forge Guard is made for. But the artillery can also, to some degree, take you. I believe they can take advantage of the tough, but definitely the reposition. Get them in a good spot, shoot the hell out of things. Alright, getting into your jacks. You've got the Gordson Basher. This is a melee and defensive shooter. All your jacks are sturdy, so they can't be pushed. You guys are you're gonna put them where you want them, and they're not going anywhere, basically. He's got flak field shooting within melee and close range. It's kind of like a short range shotgun hit. He can even do it in melee, so if he charges a unit, it's a good way to take out some models there. Grand Slam can make slam power attacks without spending focus, and slam models move an extra 2 inches, so if you want to charge into something and slam it, that'll help. Follow up, after he slams a model, he can advance right into it. Weapons built into the head, so you can add the power to slam and headbutt damage rolls. Nice. This thing has to charge. You can't use this defensively. Don't let it get charged, or you waste half of those abilities. The Gordson Driller is more of your tactical melee jack. The reason I say that, he's got a very high strength drill weapon with sustained attack, so if you make multiple attacks, if you hit with the first one, the second one's automatically hit, so this is good if you want to guarantee you're going to nail something with it. Then he's got a spray attack with powerful attack, spend to focus, and you can boost all of the attack and damage rolls for that with one focus. That's pretty gimpy. One focus for all that. That's pretty good. I think you're gonna like that. I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. The Gordson Driller just is melee. The Gordson Blaster has the spend to focus ability. My bad. That's a lighter jack, so it's not as tough. Be careful where you put it. That is a spray attack, so you do have to get somewhat closer. Use it wisely. Get it up for an alpha strike and make shots while you can. The Gunner, on the other hand, is more like a long-range sniper. It's got a powerful shot. Again, I think you want to use snipe on this to get advantage of it early. Take out some key jacks. Get yourself set up for runs. The Ogren Booker, this is a bodyguard. And he's got shield guard, tough, and slam power attacks. He gets tough in the theme. +2 to attack and damage rolls within 2 inches of his client model. He basically picks your caster or a solo or a command attachment and has to stick around him. If the client dies, then he kind of goes, and he's not as good for the rest of the game. But with him, he's actually pretty good. You use him for shield guard, but you also use him for his melee ability. He's just a one-man wrecking crew, basically. Your Steelhead Gunner, command solo, gives desperate pace to the weapon crews to get them to move where you want them to a bit faster. Hit the deck, he can't be hit by an area of effect, so it makes him a little less crazy. Siege Tactics, if he's in command range, next ranged attacks will get siege weapon, so it's extra damage dice against huge base. If you're playing against someone that takes a Colossal or Gargantuan, you're going to want to pair him up with the artillery crew, make them take advantage of that. Speaking of which, there's your Organ-Hold Artillery Corps. Arcing Fire and Brutal Damage, extra dice for damage on direct hits. You want to give that snipe, like I said. Just smack things, pie plate them. You know, drop your area of effect and take out squads, preferably, but if you go after really big jacks, that'll help. And if he gets Siege Tactics again from the Gunner, that's going to help you out a lot if you're taking out big targets. Alright, so Horgan-Hold Forge Guard. Now, you had a couple things to say here. Not really sure how I should treat Forge Guard in this list. Are they frontline infantry? Are they damage dealers? What is their place in the formation? My thought, they are either sitting on objectives or kicking opponents off them. Okay? These guys are really your only melee unit that isn't a jack, and I would cover them with shooting from the smaller jacks in the Artillery Corps, push them up with desperate pace and critical smite opponents off their objectives, and charge in your melee jacks to back them up if you need to. They're not really an alpha strike unit, they're more on the defensive and they're tough, but if you give them the desperate pace with the command attachment, you can get them in there. On your feet, you can get some destroyed grunts back in the game. Wall of Steel, base-to-base models get +2 arms, so they're tough, they're not fast. Their weapons have, what is it? Critical smite, so you can push guys, it can slam them away from you. That's really handy. Like I said, if you move them up onto, let's say your opponent is holding an objective, if you get them there into combat, they can literally hit them off the objective and hold it. They're actually pretty tough. They don't take damage very easily, and you can easily just get jacks in to support them, like I said. So the only problem is there's only one of them. Unless you sit your artillery on the closer objective to you and then move these guys up to the far objective, that's about all you can do. But your opponent is going to see that coming. They're going to predict it. That's about the only drawback I see here, but that's my take. I don't think they're a very, offensive unit so much as they are objective holders or takers. It's a very specific purpose from what I can see. Now, you had a swap idea. You were thinking of getting rid of your Basher for a Rothammer Rockram, and you also would get rid of the Steelhead Gunner and the command attachment for the Forge Guard. I really think that's a bad idea. I don't see one jack as being worth solo that gets your artillery working better, a command attachment that makes your infantry move faster, especially when they're slow, and another gun. It just doesn't seem like a good trade-off to me. The Rockrum, I just didn't see enough in it to really take. It just didn't seem worth it to me. Losing those 3 and all the abilities that go with. If you're gonna do something, I maybe swap out the Jack. Is about all I can think. Swap out the Jack. I wouldn't get rid of the command attachment in the solo though, because your army uses that so heavily. So don't really know what to tell you on that one. It just doesn't seem workable. It doesn't seem like a good move from where I'm sitting here. Anyway, your basic bits with the list is, yeah, use your feet. Take advantage of that to get your guys into melee if you need to. You can delivery system the infantry using feet. Again, I wouldn't rely so heavily on that. You're gonna want to make this work with everything you have as an advantage. There's a lot of shoot in the list. You know, you have your smaller jacks, you have the artillery. You're gonna need to take advantage of those guys and whittle down the numbers, especially if you're running an infantry heavy opponent. If they have a lot more squads than you do, your Forge Guard aren't going to do so good if they are overwhelmed 2-1. So you need to take advantage of the shooting first, then get your guys in with some melee jacks backing them up. Again, Ossrum I don't see as a good assassin, but worst case scenario, set him up for a run. He can take advantage of Tactician and move through his own guys and get into close combat and do some damage. The Ogred Boker, same kind of deal. He'll be a nightmare in close combat as long as your client model is alive. Probably make the client either the gunner or gavel in the Forge Guard, and that will make him a little less likely to lose his abilities. But good list, very fluffy, lots of dwarves. I'd love to see this actually. The models look really interesting to me. When you get this painted up, if you want, send me a shot. I'd be happy to see that. All right, so there's your list for the week. I've got more coming up next week, and again, I'm sorry I'm a little behind on this video, but I hope you enjoyed it and the lists are helpful. As always, stay savage.